I don't like positioning games as quarterback versus quarterback, but there's so much symmetry here that I feel like we have to talk about the fact that Kyler Murray is a former rookie of the year going up against CJ Stroud, a probable rookie of the year. But I think that Kyler Murray is a good cautionary tale, perhaps, for just how quickly things can fall, particularly when it comes to quarterbacks. He finds himself a couple years after winning rookie of the year in a spot where he's fighting now to prove that uh, he's a better guy than Caleb Williams, or he's a better quarterback than Drake May, and B, if he wins enough games, it's a moot point anyway because he's the guy. And I think he's a guy that's shown brilliant flashes. He's a guy that has had steady stretches of games. A couple years ago, he had 6, 7 games in a row where he was playing astoundingly well. He just hasn't been that consistent. So it's Kyler Murray who I'm kind of pulling for one because he's in the NFC, so I don't have to worry about it. But I always felt that it was a little too easy for the Cardinals, who are now in a known and documented dysfunctional organization. It's a bit of a mess over there, and I think Kyler Murray was in some ways blamed for some of Cliff Kingsbury's shortcomings. So I am pulling for Kyler Murray from week 12 onwards. For those of you who are brought here by the algorithm, I'm Seth Payne. I played for the Houston Texans. So this is going to be a super biased appraisal of this matchup. I'm super, super bullish on CJ Stroud. I want to be bullish on Kyler Murray. I think he has matured a lot. I think there have been some interviews I watched this week and some things that people have talked about with him. I think he's grown. I think he's been through the ringer a little bit. So the first couple of bits of audio I want to play are Mike Martz, former offensive coordinator and head coach for the Rams, is in the NFL for like 40 years, and Greg Cassell from NFL Films guru, both guys who have been around the NFL forever. Like, I wanted to play some of the things they're saying about CJ Stroud because these guys don't dole out gushing praise all that quickly or easily, and they've seen it all. I think when they speak about things in an historical context, you can trust them. So first, Mike Martz. This was on the 33rdteam.com.
I've never seen anything like him. Not Brady, not anybody. I've never seen anybody like CJ Stroud. Through my time in football, I've never seen a rookie quarterback play at this level. Had this kind of control, quickness of delivery, accuracy, arm strength, all the chains up. He lays one in there down the sideline, and then he'll throw a shot in there. He's got everything. He does everything. Modest, humble. Guys love him. He's at his best when things are at their worst. He's at his best under pressure. He just doesn't blink. And then the throws are so accurate. They hit guys in full stride. I mean, you have to catch him. You got no choice.
I love that. You have to catch him. You have no choice. It's almost, Mart's an old school hard ass. I think. Like I could see him. I could see him yelling at a receiver for not catching some of the passes that CJ has thrown. I think the part where he said that he's his best under pressure. That's the part that I think so many people were concerned about in his scouting report, was just how is he going to be under blitz and under pressure. And early in the season, there were some signs that he looked like a rookie. Right now, he's incredible when blitzed. And then when pressured, I don't think the numbers even really accurately reflect how good he's been, because he's also been very judicious about throwing the ball away, and much more so than most rookies. He's not worried about throwing incompletions. He's not worried about having a low completion percentage. And he's pushing the ball downfield, 8+ yards per attempt, as he's thrown only 2 interceptions on the year. Like, it's really, really, really good. As somebody in the comments pointed out, Drew Brees has done a couple. Drew Brees is a YouTuber now, and he's done 2 videos on CJ Stroud. Like, former NFL quarterbacks just can't get over how advanced CJ is. This is from Greg Cassell. Greg Cassell, who equally is as impressed with the physical stuff as he is the mental stuff.
CJ Stroud's become one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. Now, there's a guy that sees it right away. He even sees it when there's disguise and late rotation, which we've seen a number of times the last couple of weeks, where the defense has done a lot of that, which is what defenses do to young quarterbacks. It has not impacted Stroud in a negative way at all. He's got such a quick, compact delivery. He's an accurate passer, very precise with his ball location. He just looks really comfortable playing quarterback.
That was on the Ross Tucker podcast, of course, my good friend Ross. Greg Cosell with NFL Films Forever. Like, he does not dish out praise lightly. He's also been pretty critical of Kyler Murray in the past. I could tell everybody's been kind of treating Kyler Murray with kid gloves after his first week back, where he had a good performance. But I think everybody's just kind of waiting to see how he fits in this offense and how he goes through. Kyler Murray spoke about being a little bit rusty and not quite mentally fully indoctrinated into this new offense. As Greg was talking about adjusting to disguised coverages and rotating safeties and all of that, if you look at this screenshot here, this is the play, the throw to Dalton Schultz on that final field goal drive. If you look at that defensive back, that dude was up at the line showing blitz, and this guy was up at the line. This is him bailing out like right at the snap. So this is all happening at the snap. And you can see Dalton Schultz is up there in the number 2, second from the top. And CJ knew exactly what was going on, where to go with it. Got to Dalton Schultz, no problem. He's really nails when it comes to a lot of the stuff that teams try to do to flummox a rookie. Like, CJ's just passed the test every step along the way. It's really, really cool. His ability to create space for himself is pretty good. Yeah. D'Amico spoke about Kyler Murray on the Wednesday press conference.
Cardinals, I think it starts with Kyler Murray. First and foremost, getting him back. You talk about an explosive, dynamic playmaker, the quarterback position, one of the premier athletes in the NFL right now. Does a really good job passing the football, but as we all know, him with his scramble ability, that's what won them the game this past week.
He made some really nice throws. He had some rough ones. I'll show those while Kyler's talking next, but he was like admittedly rusty. There were some really curious underthrows. There were some misfires. He was behind receivers at times, but he also made some really, really nice throws. Trey McBride too. I'll show some of him. Trey McBride, the second-year tight end. He's an angry elf. He's a feisty one. I like him. I'm gonna hate him on Sunday, but I like him right now for his feistiness. I think they might have something there. The concern about that is that Texans have really, really struggled versus tight ends, and now down a linebacker. I'm a little bit nervous about that. I'm not super nervous about it because CJ is capable of winning a relative shootout. Not that a tight end typically turns things into a shootout, but he was spreading it around a certain amount last week. So the tight end, though, is still going to be concerned. I believe this is Trey McBride. Yeah. So that was late in the game. Underthrow, but Trey McBride competed for it. Like, that's about the only time right there that I saw Trey McBride actually go down without a fight. He's trucking people, lowering shoulders, getting up and preening afterwards. This is why I really wish Jimmy Ward were around. I feel like these two would really be just destroying him. But like, look at this throw by Kyler Murray. And that's with the tight end losing his footing a little bit. See how angry he is? He's super angry. More anger right here. So Trey McBride is like the biggest thing I think you have to worry about other than Kyler Murray's legs. The Arizona defense is not so hot in terms of scoring, in terms of pass defense. The rush defense is just so. I errantly said that they were like a atrocious rushing defense during the week this week. They're not. They're so. So there's really not anything threatening as of late, but it's impossible to say because look, quarterbacks kind of matter, and I do think that Kyler Murray might be not just a rejuvenated quarterback, but think about when Mike Vick went to, and it's a poor comparison because obviously Mike Vick was older and went through some serious stuff. But when Mike Vick went to Philadelphia and was in Andy Reid's offense, he became a different quarterback. And like Andy Reid's one of the best all time, but I do think that there's something to be said for coming from Cliff Kingsbury's offense, which never really genuinely developed into what I think a lot of us hoped that it would be. Was Kyler Murray the limiting factor there, or was it that Cliff Kingsbury wasn't good at bringing him along? I know the iPad hours and all that stuff, but it's just that's going to be the big experiment. Here's Kyler talking about his rustiness. All right, so Kyler was asked how he feels in this new offense, just getting the actual physical reps and whether he's comfortable with it yet.
No, I'm pretty comfortable with it. I will say, being in a different offense for the past 4 years, it was new. It was definitely new. A lot of, terminology and stuff like that, being out there, seeing a certain coverage and, thinking back to like old habits or things that we would do. But at the same time, being in the moment and not, not being able to go to what I would normally go to, having to stay with what we're doing now. There's definitely some old habits that want to, creep back in when you're out there.
All right, D'Amico, let's go ahead and just try to glitch things up as much as possible. If you're thinking, hey, D'Amico's got a lot of experience versus Kyler Murray, not necessarily as a coordinator. Because of injuries, D'Amico in his 2 years as coordinator was only faced Kyler Murray once. And had an okay game, but like obviously he was also there for the 2 previous years, so he's seen a good amount of Kyler. I think the big concern with Kyler, just like it's going to be with any mobile quarterback, is exactly whether you allow that quarterback to take your edge off your pass rush or the bite out of your pass rush and your edge rushers. I think that just based on Lamar Jackson in week 1, which wasn't peak Lamar Jackson, he wasn't feeling it. Like, actually, there's a lot of similarities with week 1 because Lamar Jackson was in a new offense and I think wasn't quite peak, dual threat running, passing quarterback. But Will Anderson and John Grenard and those other defensive ends are pretty good and disciplined about playing their responsibilities and understand when they got to play the run, when they got to rush. And I feel pretty good about that. Like those Grenard, actually, that was one thing that impressed me out of college with him. And my old defensive line coach was his defensive line coach, both at Louisville and Florida, right? But he, a coordinator at Florida. He, Grenard was very disciplined and good at reading in college. And then in the NFL, when it comes to zone read and stuff, he's actually gotten pretty good at baiting people into making the wrong read. Like he'll jab his foot uphill, force the quarterback to keep or force the quarterback to hand off and then make the tackle. So Will Anderson is equally savvy like that against the run. So I actually feel pretty good about that with my fingers crossed. But again, he's a wild card. We saw Kyler Murray scramble. We saw his ability to run for that touchdown. It's like you can do everything right and still be wrong. And I think it was D'Amico, right, that said you gotta rush him twice. You got to tackle him twice because he's going to have that second effort on plays. Okay, so Matt Burke. This is Matt Burke on Kyler.
He's not afraid to sort of like give ground to gain ground type thing. Like some guys don't want to bail and do. I mean, he'll go back. That play against Atlanta last week, the third down scramble that he had. I mean, he went back 20 yards back just to go 10 yards forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, Matt Burke. It sucks. It's a pain in the ass. And Matt, okay, we talk about familiarity. Matt Burke was in Arizona with Kyler and JJ. So, but not when. Let's see, was Matt Burke only in Arizona for 1 year? So he wasn't when he's not all that familiar with Kyler Murray. This is the one part I have not looked into this at all to find out the backstory to this. But in the press conference, Kyler Murray was being asked about Josh Dobbs and his performance going up to Minnesota and, learning the offense on the fly. And Kyler Murray was very gracious about it and complimented him and said nice things. Because remember, Josh Dobbs was playing and won a game for the Cardinals this year. But then this writer, I'd like to know if there's anybody from Arizona in here at all right now. Let me know what this writer's deal is, because listen to the way he phrases this when talking about Josh Dobbs.
What's your reaction to just what he's done twice now this season with all the talk with you and all learning a new, and then he comes and does this twice? It's got to be pretty surprising.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about the Vikings?
What's that?
Are we talking about the Vikings?
Well, he coming here too.
Yeah.
So it happened twice.
What happened twice?
So I'm just curious what your thoughts on that is.
I'm happy for him. I'm happy for him. We're 2-8. We gotta keep going though.
I don't. What was that? Well, I feel like he was trying as hard as he could to be gracious and talk about the guy that was there, and people were, people are all excited about Dobbs, because that's what happens with quarterbacks when they go and have any success elsewhere. I Kyler Murray said a lot of the right things in that press conference, and I feel like that I feel like that writer was testing him. Am I overly sensitive on his behalf or not? Let's see. What a dumb question. Okay, Jacob. Yeah, good.